Dear Shanae and Simone, as you move through life as Black women, you will have a very unique experience. In many cases, you will be asked or expected to serve in roles that weren't clearly explained, nor did you really agree to. Over the course of my life, I have met some amazing women who have navigated some of the spaces that you will encounter. I want my village to share with you their stories of trials and successes to help provide a foundation to understand your power to choose the woman that you will become and the strength that you can find in your sisters. This series of shows is my gift to you. The women you will hear from are phenomenal. They come from different backgrounds and have chosen different paths for their lives. Each represents a facet of the Black woman experience. Some of the stories may not align with your journey directly, but those stories are even more important. By listening closely, you can learn about uncommon experiences and find ways to support your sisters along your shared journey. I love you all so much, and I hope to see you soon. So that's what our month of Black women is all about. It really is about providing an opportunity to talk about strength and to talk about trials and tribulations, but also successes and resources and sharing and understanding what's going on. And like I told you all before, today is no different. It is amazing how many dope women I know. And I'm just so grateful that I know them. And I'm going to bring you all another dope woman that I know, Miss Erica Myers from Fosterpreneur. I've had the pleasure of working with Erica probably about the last 5 to 7 years and have watched her build an incredible organization anchored in just giving back and helping people from a different circumstance. You know what? Show notes. Remember the show notes? They said that I should let the guests talk about themselves. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna go, okay, all right. Good morning, Miss Myers. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Honolulu. I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. And that intro, I'm like, oh, he's talking about me. Oh.
Absolutely. And the thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands is a lot of times, show notes. I was about to go ahead into it again. This is what, you know what, Brandy and Crazy Horse hold me down because let me just talk. This is not a phone conversation. This is a show. This is a whole show. Okay. All right. Okay. Give me a second.
But this is kind of like our conversations that we have.
I know.
So,
I gotta remember that we're not on the phone. That's my thing. It's like, okay, wait, no, people are watching this one. People are watching this. Okay. All right. So, Erica, tell the people about yourself.
Yeah. So, as William mentioned, I am the founder of Fosterpreneur. There's so many hats that I wear. I am somebody who is just passionate about helping alumni of the foster care system. I am someone who just loves helping people, especially people that look like me. I love building relationships. I love connecting people. I love figuring out ways to add value. And when I think about just who I am, there are these affirmations that I feel like really describe who I am. And I would say connection, peace, joy, and truth. Those are the things that I feel like really embody who I am and who I strive to be every day. Every day is not perfect, but who I strive to be every day.
Okay. You know what? I love that. That sounds really good. So we're going to start this off because this is the month of Black women. We got a ritual because, with my mental health issues, I need as many rituals as I can to keep me focused. So, all right. Jeff Bezos just shot another rocket into space. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there's some aliens kind of flying through our solar system. They're like, what's going on over there? So they come over and fly and they're like, oh my God, there's 7 billion sentient, because that's a different show, but sentient creatures here. And they're like, oh, they're different categories. And they pick you and they're like, all right, you're a Black woman. So I see you all categorized this way. What is it like to be a Black woman? Remember, they have no frame of reference of what it's like to be human in general. So how would you describe to them what it's like to be a Black woman?
When I think about what it's like to be a Black woman, I think being a Black woman is magical. And the reason why I say magical is because we've birthed civilization. So to those aliens who come, like the oldest human remains are people that are brown that were just like me. So we birthed greatness. And I know that I come from greatness. And so many people want to be us, but they don't necessarily want to acknowledge that they want to be us. So I would just say that we're magical beings and we really get stuff done. That's what
I
it's like to be a Black woman.
I love that, especially kind of the anchor point in the birth of creation. Um, Now, one of the things I want to talk a little bit about your background, because a lot of times people focus on uh, where you are. Like, oh, I get to know you now, so your entire world started here. Like, I remember when I was little, the idea that my teachers actually had lives outside of school used to freak me out because for me, that was the dimension I found it in. So for you, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked in a thought. Are you frozen?
No, I'm not frozen. I'm here.
Okay, cool. You stopped moving. I was like, what's that? Oh, you know what? That's me. I'm sorry, I gotta go back. I'm gonna have to go back and edit this. I forgot to turn on the do not disturb. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, I can still hear you. I literally was like, I'm not frozen, and he's still moving, and I can still hear him. So I'm not sure what's going on.
All right. What was I saying?
Um, and I just lost my train. I just lost what you were trying to say too.
It's quite all right. So let's talk about something else. One of the things that often happens for people is this idea that they are giving back to their community. But like you mentioned before, a lot of the work that you deal with or that you do in your area of passion revolves around dealing with those who are alumni of the foster care system. So that's not part of your experience. So how did you even get involved or focus on dealing with the alumni of the foster care system to begin with?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me this question because I would say when people kind of find me, they assume that I'm an alum of the foster care system, and I'm
Mhm.
not. And just to give you a brief background about myself, I was born right outside of Washington, D.C., and came from two loving parents. And in my experience, because I went to private school my entire life, I wasn't even surrounded by foster care. I knew it was a thing, but it wasn't anything that I was exposed to because I didn't have any family members that fostered, and because of the nature of my schooling, I didn't go to school with anybody who had the lived experience of being in foster care.
Mhm.
And when I fast forward to how I got connected with the work, I feel like they chose me. And the reason why I say that is because through an assignment in graduate school, I got connected with an organization in Miami where I was attending school at the time called Casa Valentina. And they were serving.
Big ups to Casa Valentina. Big
Yes.
ups to them.
In fact, I'm going to Casa Valentina this week because I'll be in Miami.
Okay.
So I'm super excited to go back. It's been almost 10 years since I've been there.
Wow.
Been to Casa Valentina specifically. And that's where this all started for me. And as a result of that class and me just asking, like, hey, can I have an internship? Like, I like what you guys are doing. They offered me that role. And I started working directly with the young people that they were serving. So Casa Valentina provides subsidized housing and life skills training and development for our alumni of the foster care system in South Florida. And through that experience, I'd never felt a sense of purpose in any of the work I had done up until that point. So that's where it all started. Like, if someone had told me through a graduate school class, that evaluation class at that I would be working with foster care alumni and then also creating a whole organization that supports them, I'd be like, really? Me?
Like,
I don't have any experience. I don't have any friends that were foster care,
right.
in foster care. Like, and literally I just felt a calling and a sense of purpose. And even to this day, I carry the stories of the young women, the young moms, the young men that I met during my time at Casa Valentina.
Now, one of the things that I appreciate that you do, and I don't know whether it's deliberate or it's just part of your personality, you don't engage the alumni of the foster care system from the let me help save you. This whole perspective of like, oh, let me get your life as close to mine as possible because I came from a two-parent household, well to do. So let's try to shift your experience to make it more aligned with mine. And I've seen that happen, and my experience is that's a very Eurocentric way of looking at things. A very like, I am the high watermark, and so the goal for you is to approach becoming me. And you don't take that approach in your work. Talk a little bit about how well. First, again, see, show notes, show notes, show notes. I'm still talking about stuff I already know. I'm trying to get you to explain stuff already. I apologize. That's my fault. Show notes.
We're just two friends just catching up, and
yeah, like, and I'm like, no, we're not. I do this for a living. Like, I gotta. See, this is what they don't understand. Like when you bring your friends to the table, it's like, oh right, yeah, and especially because I can't see the audience. I'm like, wait, that's right. People are here. People are here. People are here. People are here. Okay, all right. Okay.
But it makes it authentic. Like this is how we do things, and I think that we need more authenticity. So I'm with it.
I absolutely do. I can't give much other than that. So that's what they stuck with if they watching this.
All facts. All facts.
So talk, share your approach, how you engage, and how you and why you took that kind of mentality in the work that you did.
Yeah, I feel like part of it is just the fabric of who I am, but also just thinking about my training from school of, especially when I was at University of Miami studying community psychology, like our whole big thing was whoever we're serving, they have the answers to their problems. Not
Ooh, wait, no. We're not going to just let that go. Because like that I just hearing you say it, like the weight of it. Like, do you mind spending some time talking about that? Because that, I can see, like, hearing that, I can see it in all of our conversations. So, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I really think about just how so often, especially when we think about the history of just our world, right? Like colonization, slavery, all of those things. It was, here's another group who thinks they're superior, who thinks that we need to fix or put other people in their places, regardless of whether there's any logic or anything supporting that, right? And especially when we think about it from an American context and like our history, and me being a Black woman, raised outside of the Baltimore area, and what my family has gone through, I know that people have the solutions to their problems. They just need access to resources to do that. And they need the opportunity for people to give them that. And so often, because of, like, when we think about classism, when we think about racism, we think of whoever has like the power are the ones that are more intelligent, or the ones that can really tell people what they need to do. And that's not the case. So like, even when I didn't go into how I created Fosterpreneur, I don't know if you want me to go there, but you want me to go?
This is an evolving conversation. It'll go wherever you take it. Come on.
Okay. So Fosterpreneur was literally born out of rejection. And the reason why I say that is because I was ready to leave South Florida at the time, and I thought I wanted to do more transformative, systemic work through policy. I'm like, oh, policy is the way to help change some of the systems that are impacting foster care alums and foster care youth. So let me go the policy route. The way that I decided to do that at the time was through the White House internship. I had one of my best friends from college was a White House intern in 2012. And she was like, Erica, this is a really great way for you to get back to like the DC area and get your foot in the door. So using her guidance, she helped me put together and prepare for the White House internship. And this was in 2014. And once I got the go ahead that I had made it to the security clearance round, I was like, oh, I'm good. Left all of my life behind in Miami. But in the midst of the security clearance round, they waitlisted me. But I was like, it's going to work out. And because my dad lives outside of DC, my mom lived at Owings Mills at the time, I was like, oh, I'm good. I can either crash like at my dad's house or my mom's house. Like, I'm good. went back home, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a White House intern. They're like, you haven't gotten accepted. What are you doing, Erica? What's your plan B? I'm like, I don't need a plan B. Then what happened?
I think I know where this story is going.
And I was, oh, William, I was feeling myself so much. I was like, oh, nothing can get in the way here. And when that rejection happened, that was my rock bottom because I was like, this is supposed to work out. Like all these steps, this is a competitive process. Like, how did I get this far and it's not work out? Right. And honestly, I remember after getting that rejection email, having a good cry, talking to a good friend, and I was like, wait, what if I combine entrepreneurship and help foster care alumni become entrepreneurs? And that's where the idea started. And honestly, I really believe that I had gotten accepted to the White House internship. I would have gone on a totally different path, and Fosterpreneur wouldn't exist, not in the way that we created Fosterpreneur to be. So literally that rejection was the best thing that happened to me because it forced me to be creative, because I knew deep down inside that I was supposed to do this work, but I think I needed to go through that process in order to get to a place where I was willing to look at it from a different lens.
That makes a lot of sense. So you talked a little bit about how you got to starting Fosterpreneur. So share with them, because I have show notes, share with them what Fosterpreneur is.
Yes. Oh, and we were talking about this thing and we didn't describe what the thing was. So
no, this is the right time. This is the right time.
This is the right time?
It's the build-up. It's the build-up. It's like
the build-up. They needed that build-up, right? Before we could get there.
Yeah.
You know, so Fosterpreneur, what we do is we help transform the lives of foster care alumni through the power of entrepreneurship. What sets us apart from like going to like this SBA or other organizations is that we keep in mind the needs of foster care alumni and those who have been touched by the foster care system. And part of that is through our trauma-informed approach, but also creating agency for our students in that process, like providing them a safe space where they can show up authentically and not us giving them lip service to say, oh, show up as you are, but they can show up as they are throughout our process. And it's literally anywhere from, hey, I want to be my own boss, or, you know, I'm kind of curious about it, or I already have something and I need help going to whatever the next level is for me. And then even also too, like some of our students have used this literally as a mentoring, a space for mentoring to help them in other life aspects as well. So what we've been able to do with the young people that we've served has just been really phenomenal. I'm really proud of the fact that we exist. I'm proud of the fact that we give our young people the space to be whoever they are and what they need during our time together.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is Fosterpreneur's 5th anniversary.
Now that you say that, it is. So to give you all context, we started our first cohort in 2017 with one student. And I was speaking about authenticity before. And what I want to mention is that for a long time, I was ashamed to say our first cohort had one student because I had this image of what success looked like. But as a result of going through this whole process, what I've learned, you just need to start with one person. And one person can give you so much valuable feedback. And I'm glad that we didn't have a cohort of 10 or even 20, because then we would have been prepared. And you want to be ready. We want to be ready to provide what our alums need. And we're still pivoting. We're still figuring out. We're still adjusting because that's part of the process. But I'm proud to say we started with one. And for a long time, I wasn't proud of that. And I'm glad that I can say, hey, we started with one. And here we are. We have now done 5 cohorts, and 4 of them have been completely virtual. And we have had applicants apply to Fosterpreneur from virtually every region of the country. That's not something I would have envisioned when I had that idea back in September of 2014.
Okay. So that is also something I want you to talk a little bit more about. I know a lot of times, kind of like with your White House, with the White House internship, there are these expectations and these stories that we tell ourselves about what's going to happen. Um, and when you started with Fosterpreneur, I'm sure you had a vision of what it was going to look like and how the students were going to be. But again, it sounds like it goes back to that anchor that the answers are with them. You just create the platform for them. Is that an accurate representation?
Yes, and I'll tell you what my process was when I had the idea initially. So when I started, I got in research mode, and this is where you're resourceful. Like you literally, I used to think it's like a cliche when people would say, "Oh, start where you are," but literally, you have to start with where you are, and starting with where you are gives you the opportunity to be creative. It allows you to be open in a different way versus having everything at your disposal right away. So what starting with where I was looked like at the time was borrowing one of my friends' academic information. So I say that because I was like, let me look and research and see what's been peer reviewed empirical studies to see if anyone's doing this or already has done this. And from me just doing the research, and by the way, because I had a background in academia, like that's why I started off looking at empirical research. Most people are not going to start off there, but that's where I started.
Right.
And realized that there wasn't anything that existed in the literature, at least, about Fosterpreneur. And then when I just started, it's kind of like entrepreneurship and foster care, like just Googling stuff like that. And I didn't find anything. Mind you, this was 2014. So like I couldn't find anything. However, just talking about starting where you are and just being so open. When one of my first Google searches, one of the names that came up was Shalita O'Neill. Shalita O'Neill
Big up,
is,
Shalita.
yes, she is such a boss. She is incredible. Shalita has done so much work in the child welfare space throughout the state of Maryland, but not even just throughout the state, nationally and globally. Like she has had other countries look to her for guidance and research for best practices with supporting foster care alums. And I found out Shalita was based out in Prince George's County. For those who are listening outside of the Baltimore, D.C. area, Prince George's County is one of the neighboring areas right outside of D.C. And I was like, one day I'm going to meet her. I don't know how I'm going to meet her, but I'm going to meet her. And fast forward about 2 years later, I met her. So just the power of starting where you are, and then literally just through my research mode as I was picking up the pieces to my own life. So I was in research mode, but also dealing with other personal stuff. What I came around to doing the fall of 2015 was reaching out to the foster care alums that I had relationships with in Miami. And one of my really good friends, he helped me put together a focus group. I was like, I need an outside perspective because I know them and I don't want any like bias to seep in because I know these students really, really well. I know their stories. I've like done stuff with them. So he was just so great in helping. And in fact, I'm going to give him a personal shout out. Brian Oates, CEO of Black Speakers Network, was so instrumental in helping me in the initial stages of Fosterpreneur, and still was such a great resource for us.
Yeah, we always big up Brian Old. Black Speakers Network. Like actually, Black Speakers Network was primarily responsible for our entire February program. So always big up BSN.
Yeah, like BSN, if you were a speaker of the African diaspora and you need resources to build your speaking business, you need to be a part of BSN. Like, don't even think about it. You need to be a part of BSN. But anyway, so going back to what I was saying, he helped me put together a focus group, and I just asked straight out, "Hey, is this something you guys would be interested in?" And for the most part, the answer was yes. One thing I do want to note though is because of the name Fosterpreneur, some of the feedback that I got was a little bit of shame, because the title had the word foster. And for so many foster care alums that I've spoken to, there's There's a
Stigma associated.
there's a stigma, right? Couldn't think the
Yeah.
word for it, but think there's a stigma. And there's like, I want to distance myself from this because I don't want people to label me because of the fact that I've had this lived experience.
Right.
So that's something I kept in mind. However, what I will say is still choosing to move along with the name Fosterpreneur because we can take back the power over certain names that may have been used to stigmatize us. So, and it's a name that people can remember. And once they have the context, they know exactly why it's called Fosterpreneur.
And on the other side of it, while there is an opportunity for the people that you are serving to, they may be uncomfortable until they understand the story and the engagement, the people that you get funding from, that's something that attracts them because they may be like you and are looking for opportunities to support an organization that helps alumni of the foster care system. So I think that's a really good point you bring out about balancing kind of the needs of your customers or your clients and the needs of the kind of the greater tactical or business operations piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad I didn't create some generic thing that didn't tie it because it would be, what's that? What do you do? And not that you don't want people to ask those questions. You want people to be curious. You want to talk about it. But as soon as they know, they don't forget. They don't forget. And I definitely do not want to. I want to be unforgettable. So
hey, watch this. Let's show them what for. This is what you this is
see
when
that,
y'all in the work.
you see the logo? You see the logo? Foster. We're here. Bam. Equipping.
There it is.
Bam. Right there. Right there.
All right. So tell me a little bit about what well, let's not actually this actually becomes a really good point. A lot of times my experience with Black women has been that their sense of self and their identity is tied up around their service to others. And I just caught myself falling into that same thing because we've been talking for almost a half an hour and we just spent a large chunk of it talking about the thing that you do in service of others in the context of who you are. So are you more than your service?
Oh, absolutely. I want to go back to my introduction because I mentioned like the core of my essence. I'm connection, I'm peace, I'm joy, I'm truth. Like, and I express those things through the things that I do. And I have learned that you can't tie yourself to titles. You can't tie yourself to things that you do because if those things are taken away from you, who are you? You know, so I really work to how do I reflect who I am and not even when I describe myself. I don't like to say like my titles in certain spaces. I mean, certain spaces warrant that. So I'm not going to minimize that, but like who I am. Because I think about when I had my rock bottom that I shared with you guys, I was so tied to the identity of what things were and not who I was as a person, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a daughter, as a friend, all of those things. So like that's why I truly work to ground myself in like who I am versus like the titles.
Gotcha. Okay. And so while not the titles themselves, I'm talking about more of the activities that you engage in. Like the service, like not the I am president and CEO and founder of Fosterpreneur, not that part, but that I help people. And that is that a core part of your identity?
Yeah, I mean, being in service to others is definitely a core part of my identity, but more of an and at the same time, serving myself is a very, very important part of my identity. So I'm very big. I've got even bigger on like boundaries for myself, making sure that I'm doing the things to replenish myself and I'm in service to myself, but not at the detriment of myself, but also like the detriment of other people, because it can be so easy, especially with like who I am and how I operate in the world, like to put myself in a position where I'm at service to others and at disservice to myself. So I'm
Okay,
constantly
gotta avoid
evaluating,
that.
like, how am I taking care of me?
Mhm.
And taking care of me, like, I think self-care gets a bad rep in certain things because people think, oh, self-care is like spa dates and things like that. No, self-care is the quiet moments. Self-care is, am I taking care of my essential needs, not going on, not talking about things that some people consider luxury
Mhm.
experience, but like, how am I taking care of my physical health? Like I
Mhm.
mentioned,
Mhm.
before we started the show, I shared with William, I went on an amazing walk this morning. Like, that was over an hour of my time. And it could have been like, oh, I could have done this and that. But I'm like, no, that's not negotiable. Like, I have to feed myself before I feed other people.
Okay, so you have you have this situation where you're setting boundaries, where
Mhm.
you are saying that this is reserved for me, and I know this is how much I need to eat, and I'll share the rest of it with you all, and I feel good about sharing it, but I need to reserve this for me.
Mhm.
What I have seen happen to a lot of Black women is that because their identity is wrapped around service, people train them that reserving anything for themselves is them not being authentic or them being selfish. How do you balance those types of expectations externally from the boundaries that you need to have to protect yourself with the reality that there are consequences for boundaries?
Hmm. That's deep. And being fully transparent, I think me being single and not having children makes this process
Mm-hmm.
probably a bit easier
Mm-hmm.
than if I were married and if I had children. So I don't want to minimize, because there are women out there killing the game who are managing households, managing children, managing relationships and different family dynamics and such. And I feel really fortunate because my parents are super independent and they're not dependent on me in ways. And they've always given me the space to do my thing. So, like, I acknowledge I have a level of privilege that some people don't have. So I think it's important to put that out there. Um, and I also don't have siblings. So there's certain like family dynamics that I'm not privy
Oh,
to.
yo, you hit the birth lottery.
But you know what though? Like, so I have a god sister that I'm really close to. Like, my cousins are people I view as siblings because I don't
Oh yeah,
have that dynamic, that sibling
yeah.
dynamic. But I say all that to say, I think because I don't have I have a lot of control over my personal space and my time, that there aren't a lot of things that are trying to take that I don't have control over. So
Not gonna let you cheat. Not gonna let you cheat.
okay,
That's
I
it.
should have known you weren't gonna let me
Yeah.
slide. You
I
never
was gonna,
let me
yeah, and it was cool the
slide.
way you were trying to really slide that by me like it was a real ass answer.
I should have
Because
known. I should have known.
what are
I've
we
been
doing?
working with you too long to know that,
So
you always call me on everything, whether I like it or not.
okay, we're not talking about that part. That's not
Okay,
that's
all
just
right, well, that's what you're doing.
but the thing is that you talk about this life where you don't have these things that would draw on you and kind of in some cases force you into responsibilities that would change the dynamic or the context of your life. But my thing is that those are boundaries that you set. Because let's not pretend that you didn't have an opportunity to become somebody's wife thus far. Now, the whole sibling piece, that's up to your parents. Well, how they want to work that out. That's them. And
I don't have to tell you that.
I don't want to
Sure,
even think about
so
your parents doing it. I'm going to be honest. That's not something we want to do.
no,
But
no,
so
and they got divorced too. So
I'm
that also.
sorry. I'm sorry. You think divorced people don't do it? Come on, stop playing. That's
I,
disrespectful.
I mean, okay, that was not
You're like,
relevant.
okay, no, not part of the interview today.
Not relevant.
So, so you could have been married by now. You could have been pregnant by now. You could have had kids by now.
True.
You could have done all of this stuff. But one of the things I want to make sure, again, as a highlight for my goddaughters, is that your boundaries early on prevents you from having to create stronger boundaries later on.
True.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And like you said, there from choices I made in my 20s up until like this point in time, that's allowed me to have the level of flexibility that I have today. And in fact, one thing that this reminds me of like, I'm working to outsource, even for me, I'm working to outsource the things I don't want to do to free up more of my time and creativity. So that's part of like the boundary or taking care and doing that like unapologetically. So yes, I have someone come and clean for me. And that happens once a month. And could I do it myself? Yes. But I choose not to. And I'm totally fine with that. And just even as I continue to grow, I'm like, how can I free up space and time so that I can be the best me possible? Because I mentioned Black women are magical, and I'm trying to be living like in the highest like possible way and like honoring who I am, and also who I feel like I was created to be. So I got to get rid of all the stuff that gets in the way of that.
Understandable. So let's take a step back in time in your life, because I have found in a lot of these conversations that describing the boundaries and how you establish those and how you, and more so, how you manage the relationships the relationships and the boundaries simultaneously. And so I know you have made a conscious decision to not be married right now. You have made these decisions to create a life, but they have also come with consequences. And so how, kind of going back to that space, when you are setting up, and again, not just marriage or whatever, but just in general, when you're setting up these boundaries, the recognition that there may be a consequence, and it may either change a relationship, cost a relationship, or somehow alter one of these other aspects or elements of your life. How do you prioritize or navigate or make those decisions?
Part of it is constantly reassessing. And one of the ways that I reassess is on my actual birthday. What I do each year is set my intentions for what I want to happen that year. And I like birthdays better than the new year, because your birthday is actually your own personal new year versus, yes, January, there's a new enthusiasm and energy around it. But like, really, I think you should assess on your actual birthday.
Okay.
So that's part of what I do. As far as like, hey, like, am I on target? Like, what are some of the reach or stretch things that I'm working towards? Or hey, that's gonna take longer, and that's okay. And letting go of these societal timelines. And I have to say, I'm really grateful for my mother, because my mother instilled in me growing up, like, explore, do things that like you want to do. So like, she was always encouraging me, putting me in different activities that would have exposed me to different things, whether that was like ice skating, to sign language, to have an opportunity to perform in the Olympics, to doing different to piano lessons. I had so much exposure, and encouraging me to do a student exchange in high school in Japan. Like, most people, some of the people around her were like, why are you letting your daughter do all of these things? But she's like, the world is big. And I feel like because of the fact that my mom has been supportive of me in that way, and not feeling like, Erica, you got to be restricted to like certain things, has allowed me to be even more open and fluid to how I choose to live my life.
That is beautiful. And it is those kind of engagements and those types of support that give kids and adults the opportunity to explore, to not just have to try to maintain safety or try to maintain status quo. Because we've talked about this before. I think a lot of times just trying to maintain what you think you should have or get what you think you should have will drive you crazy. I mean, hell, your story about the White House internship.
Yeah.
Right? That story in your head became a replacement for any of the facts of your life. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that happen to people in their businesses, their relationships, their family. Oh, my blah 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 would never do that.
Yeah. And I mean, and like, I think it's so important to be curious and think like, what is another way to approach this?
Mm-hmm.
Or what can I learn from this situation? Or like, what am I missing? Like just being curious and thinking like life is beyond where your family, beyond your household, beyond your zip code. Like there's so much at your disposal. And I also recognize that a lot of people didn't have the experiences I had, especially as a Black woman. Like my parents were the first generation in their families to go to school. And as a result of that, that provided me with different opportunities that just in the midst of like one generation, it's like, whoa. So I'm grateful for the sacrifices that they made, but I'm also reminded that my experience is not normal, whatever normal means.
Right.
But
It doesn't fit in the range under the bell curve.
yeah.
There you go. One standard deviation from the mean.
Yeah,
exactly. We about to get all mathematical up in here. So you talked about being at the rock bottom. So I'm assuming that the White House internship was one of the biggest challenges you've overcome. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely been one of the biggest challenges I've had to overcome.
So then let's talk about some of your biggest successes. Why don't you share those with the audience? Because like you said, Black girls are magic, Black women are magic. We need to make sure we celebrate all of the spells and potions, baby.
Yeah, I would say some of my biggest successes are like embracing who I am, because I think that's a foundation of everything. Also, what I've been able to do with our incredible Fosterpreneur team. So shout out to the team. Big ups to the team. With what we've been able to do with Fosterpreneur, like virtually, and having people ask us like, how are you doing what you're doing? That's something I'm proud of. What I've been proud of is like leveraging my 9 to 5. So whether that's been my experience at Urban Alliance. I worked at Urban Alliance for 5 years, and that provided me with so much value and like resources and just experience that shape how I even do mentoring. And for my current role, a donor's shoes, like looking at how I look at my 9 to 5s as ways that work in connection with what my long-term goals are. So just even how I approach that, and even how I view relationships, or like when I need to like make changes and need to pivot. Like when I look back at like my life over the past few years, I'm like, wow, Erica, like you've grown tremendously, even from like personal relationships, even to like being willing to tackle more difficult conversations more openly. So like, I feel like all of that stuff feeds into things. And I should note, like, I became a homeowner last year, and that was something that was really challenging to do in the midst of a global pandemic and in the midst of like our housing market. So that's something that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the fact that like I have embraced who I am in ways that I didn't 10 years ago.
Okay. So the aliens are saying, thank you. You have broadened our thoughts and really helped us understand a different facet of Black womanhood. Now, if there were things that we could do, because aliens, the ones we meet, they're going to be all powerful, be able to change everything. So let's make that. So it's like, if there's something that can be done, or we could train the humans to help support Black women, to support Black women like you, or Black women in general, what would you tell them that people should do?
Okay, so what they should do to support Black women. Um, oh, I think I'm freezing a little bit. Am I frozen on your
Nope,
side?
you're good.
Okay. All right. I think that they should support Black women by providing them with resources and not just mentoring. So put their money where their mouth is.
Cool.
I think that they should also get out the way and allow us to do what we do. I think also too, the ways that you can support Black women is to celebrate us, to literally celebrate us. And I say that because I feel like our culture is celebrated, but we aren't celebrated.
Mm. Make sure, let's tease that out, because I think I know what you mean, but let's tease that out.
I'll tease it. I'll elaborate a little bit more. I feel like from our music to our clothing, to our language, to just how we carry ourselves, to our dancing, to our singing, like to our hair, like it's mimicked and it's celebrated under the right context, but the individual is not celebrated. So celebrate us, put some respect on our names for our contributions just globally into humankind since the beginning of time. So those are the things that I would say.
That's some good stuff to say. Like that's those are words that, like, that's the word form. Then you keep it going, and we could yeah. It's like, oh, that's okay. That's some stuff that we could actually do. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, let's make it tangible for them, not too theoretical. Where it's like,
that's exactly why I love it. That's exactly why I love it. All right, so tell the people what's next for you.
Ooh,
where are you headed?
What's next for me is we are working on expanding our Fosterpreneur team and what we do. So that's something I'm super excited about. I am continuing to grow. There's some things I'm working on behind the scenes that I'll share at another day.
Okay.
But that's when I think about what's next is expanding the team.
Okay. So how can people get in contact with you?
Really good question. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So if you're watching this, you see my name, Erica Myers, just search for me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to connect. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. And if you send a compelling note, that is even better. Also, you can connect with us via the socials. So you can connect with us on Instagram at Fosterpreneurs. So Fosterpreneur with an S at the end of it. You can also connect with us on Facebook at Fosterpreneur, Twitter at Fosterpreneurs as well. But LinkedIn and IG are the places to really connect. And feel free to send a DM if you want to talk about collaborating or anything like that. Then I realized I didn't even share my email. My mind went straight to social. So, a way you can connect with me via email is erica@fosterpreneur.org.
Okay. And the other cool part about having a great name and a unique name is that if you just Google Fosterpreneur, it'll come. Most of the things that come up are directly related to Erica. So yeah. So look at that branding note. See that? Y'all got some branding notes from here today.
See, I didn't even realize the impact of it at that time. Ooh, that was hot. That was hot.
Oh,
younger Erica, a high five for sticking.
Oh, backwards high five. You gotta do it this way to send it to us. Send a backwards high five. There you go. There you go. Backwards high five to it. It's so funny. I'm sorry, because again, I keep forgetting this isn't a phone call. So I was like, all right, I'll talk to you.
This is an actual interview.
So, Ms. Myers, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing about what it's like to be a Black woman with the BlackUSA.news audience.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. And so, by the way, this is not the last time you're on here because we still need to do, I'm sorry, I should probably tell them, not just you, because we talked about this before. So you guys, this is not the last time Erica's going to be on here. We're planning a whole series around foster care and foster care alumni, highlighting the incredible work that they're doing, not just Fosterpreneur, but you all remember when Shalita O'Neill came to the show. She's part of it. Like, it's going to be a great thing. So get used to seeing Erica around here because she's going to be here for a while.
I'm
All right,
here.
Erica. I will talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Take care, William. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
No problem. Bye. Yo, didn't I tell you all I know, dope people? This is my life. Do you see how awesome my life is? Like, notwithstanding me being part of it, we talk about that on Mental Health Monday. So, but notwithstanding that, I live an awesome life because I know such amazing, awesome, and dope people. And they do incredible work to support the community. God, so it chokes me up sometimes just to, and like, legitimately, like, wow, this is amazing. So I'm sorry, Erica Myers. I got to go back to the show notes. Erica Myers, thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow. We'll be black then.